Welcome back, and joining me now is Democratic Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey. Senator Booker, welcome back to Meet the Press.
It's good to be here. Good to be here in person.
It is great to have you here in person. Thank you so much. Let's start off big picture. We're 1 month into President Trump's second term. His approval rating stands at about 46%. More popular now than he was at this point in his first term. And as you well know, he was in striking distance in your blue state of New Jersey, about 6 points away from winning the state. Do you believe you have a responsibility to your constituents to try to find a way to work with President Trump?
Well, first of all, New Jersey is my main priority, to do anything I can to help and support them. But what Donald Trump is doing right now, Republican or Democrat in New Jersey, is hurting our state. His first term, he took away our state and local tax deduction, increased taxes basically on all of my state. And what you should be reminded of is that he didn't win the majority of the popular vote. He won the popular vote, but he didn't even get over 50%. And right now, he is historically the least popular president of my lifetime, except for in his first term. So he had a very narrow mandate, which was to lower prices, which was to help people with the economy. And what we're seeing is inflation is up, the price of eggs is up, and New Jerseyans are still hurting.
Will you work with him to lower prices? Is that an area where you can find some common ground?
Well, this is what a strong president does. They get elected, especially without a mandate, without the popular vote. You come in and say, I want to work with Democrats, what Reagan did, what Clinton did. I want to work with the other side to accomplish big things. The way we do that is legislatively through the process. But he didn't do it the strong president way. He started issuing these executive orders. None of them had to do with lowering prices. All of them had to do with petty personal stuff, attacks on people that attacked him, from pardoning the from pardoning the January 6th people who viciously beat police officers, all the way to renaming the Gulf of Mexico. This is not what people wanted him to do. And ultimately, he's going to be paying for it, and that's why his approval rating is going down right now.
Let me ask you about the firing of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, C.Q. Brown. You heard me play that sound from Congressman Clyburn. He said point blank he believes he was fired because of the color of his skin. Senator Mullen pushed back against that characterization forcefully. How do you see the firing of C.Q. Brown?
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is someone who should give independent advice on the military and national security. It's something that on both sides of the aisle we said that should be independent of politics. That's why their terms are set. But just like the FBI director, which again was a Republican-supported person, General Brown was supported overwhelmingly by Democrats and Republicans. Donald Trump has thrown that out the window and is sending a dangerous message to the military. It's not about your independent expertise. It's not about your years of service. It's about your personal political loyalty to me. And that is a dangerous message to send to our military at a time when we really need independent, credible advice being going to the president, because we live in a difficult, complex world.
I do want to talk about the economy, as you're saying, one of the critical issues. The country is facing a $36 trillion debt, as I was just discussing. The debt went up by about $7 trillion under President Trump during his first term, more than $4 trillion under President Biden. Should Democrats, Senator, have done more to address the debt when they were in power, when you had a chance to do that?
Well, I'm glad you said that. It's not just that it went up $7 trillion. In my lifetime, he is the greatest president for increasing the national debt. While people like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama closed the annual deficit, President Trump, created the biggest gulfs. He is a profligate spender, and he does it all to give tax cuts to the wealthiest. If you look at his biggest economic piece of legislation that he passed, it created a massive deficit in order to give tax cuts to the wealthiest of the wealthy in America and our corporations who are doing well and don't need that kind of tax cut. And now, I think the stunning thing to Americans, and you said it, that he's going after critical jobs, from the FAA to our nuclear regulators. He's going after critical jobs to save pennies in order to give himself more room to give big tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans and the wealthiest corporations.
All right, let me move on now, because I want to talk to you about some of the rhetoric that we're hearing in talking about President Trump's aggressive use of executive power. Some of your colleagues have been saying that America is in a, quote, constitutional crisis. I want to play you some of that sound.
This is a constitutional crisis. It's the most serious assault on our Constitution in the history of this country.
Yeah, listen, I think this is the most serious constitutional crisis the country has faced, certainly since Watergate.
We are basically on the cusp of a constitutional crisis.
Senator, as you know, Democrats just lost an election, largely with a closing argument accusing Trump of being a threat to the democracy. Is that the most effective messaging right now?
I think the most effective messaging is talking about the crisis that's happening to Americans.
So they shouldn't be talking about a constitutional crisis.
I'm saying we should be talking about what's happening to Americans. I had one of the biggest hospital leaders in my state call me up and talk about the cancer research that's now in crisis, literally ruining years of research, literally having to take cancer treatments away from people, cutting edge breakthrough treatments. What's crazy is crisis when you have planes falling from the sky and you're cutting FAA folks. It is a crisis when nuclear regulatories who are keeping our safe regulators are being cut. I could go through this. I have farmers calling me up who put out tens of thousands of dollars on the understanding in the deal that they would get certain resources from the federal government, now threatening to lose their farms. Everywhere in America, red state to blue states, we are seeing real crises that Elon Musk, who's a billionaire who never has to think about where his next meal is coming from, where his medical treatment and how that will be paid for, Americans are feeling a crisis right now, and they're feeling pain that to them was unimaginable in a president they put their trust in that would lower their prices and make their lives more easily, not do things that make us so much less safe. Look, all this talk about USAID, I have visited people on the front lines stopping infectious diseases from coming here. To have scientists in dangerous areas like Kampala suddenly not be able to get their access to their cell phone, their emails, and be cut off by a president and Elon Musk who are in a ham-handed, incompetent way cutting funding that makes no sense and ultimately won't make a difference on our deficit because the president wants to rack it up to give tax cuts to the wealthiest and create even bigger deficits in our country.
Let me ask you about this broader divide, though, within the Democratic Party. You have some Democrats saying, let's sit back a little bit. You have other Democrats taking a more aggressive approach. We saw this divide in statements by House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker. Take a look.
They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government. What leverage do we have?
My oath is to the Constitution of our state and of our country. We don't have kings in America, and I don't intend to bend the knee to one.
Who has the right message, Senator?
I sit with 46 other Senate Democrats, and they are united in this fight, working with state attorney generals, working with governors, and working with the greater American population to stop Donald Trump from violating the Constitution, violating separation of powers, violating civil service laws, and many of the other things we're doing. The reason why we are winning case after case in front of Republican judges and Democratic appointed judges is because what Donald Trump is doing is illegal, it's violative of our Constitution, and it has to be stopped. And I'm proud to see a movement growing that ultimately, I believe, is going to stop Donald Trump from doing these very destructive things that are hurting everyday Americans.
Senator, very quickly, we're 3 weeks away from a potential government shutdown. Some of your fellow Democrats are saying they will support shutting down the government to protest President Trump's policies. Will you, very quickly?
I think it's outrageous that they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. They are already showing that they want to shut down the government. They're trying to shut down the Department of Education. They're trying to shut down USAID. They have the power. They won the election. They need to keep the government going. What I want to do...
But you won't help keep it open?
When governments shut down, people get hurt. The focus that I have every day is to defend and protect Americans. Their reckless, really, truly incompetent way they're functioning government right now is hurting so many people. I'm going to do everything I can to stop them.
All right. Senator Cory Booker, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.